I feel like I've been in a lot of drama.
You're extra, you're loud, you're unapologetic.
Well, thank you.
Nicki Minaj versus Cardi B. Two rap queens back at war, hurling insults over lyrics, album sales, Cardi's babies, some barbecue ribs, even Barney the dinosaur.
The internet didn't just trend last night, it cracked. One post turned a chart-topping week into a crisis, and the moment a child's name entered the crossfire, timelines flipped from stan wars to moral lines. Nobody was ready for how far this would go, and the receipts came faster than anyone could process. Cardi B's comeback wasn't soft, it was seismic. Am I the Drama blasted in at #1 on the Billboard 200 with roughly 200,000 first-week units, a clean, headline-ready stat that reminded everyone how loud a 7-year silence can break. The split happened right there, celebration for some, suspicion for others. Reports say Nicki Minaj started shading the rollout, pricing, bundles, the usual scorekeeping, before the post blinked in and out like someone switching the lights in a hallway just to see who flinches.
Up until this recent interview that she did, I had never seen her show me genuine love in an interview. And I could just imagine how many girls wish they could have been on a song with Nicki Minaj. And I mean, I'm not saying it in a cocky way, but like...
That back and forth heat is familiar, but this time it didn't cool. It boiled. What followed was the ritual we know too well, late-night threads tallying real versus boosted, side-by-side screenshots of storefronts, and quote tweets that congratulated with one hand and undercut with the other. Fan spaces spun up emergency chart classrooms, arguing over rules nobody wrote but everyone enforces online. Meanwhile, every delete felt like gasoline. Proof to one side, prudence to the other, until ambiguity became the main event. By sunrise, the win had turned from a music headline into a credibility debate. And credibility debates never stay about numbers for long.
Somehow you and Nicki Minaj got pitted against each other. Is there something between you and Nicki, or is that just internet made up?
I just feel like it's really internet made up. Like, I really feel like fans.
Then came the line, nobody forgives. Summaries of Nicki Minaj's post pulled a child into the blast radius, and the crowd reaction was instant. Fans called it out. Blogs called it out. Even people who ride for Nicki went quiet for a beat. Within the churn, an apology to Cardi's daughter appeared on X. It made noise, but not the kind that resolves anything. Cardi fired back that the apology felt backhanded and said to keep her child's name out of it. At that moment, the story stopped being about sales and started being about standards. The internet can stomach a lot, but it has rules about kids. What made it hit harder was the echo outside stan spaces. Commenters who usually treat rap beef like sport were suddenly drawing hard lines, pointing out how dragging minors risks real-world harm and invites harassment toward families who didn't sign up for any of this.
Cardi B and Nicki Minaj are back at it again with their ongoing feud. On September 29th, the rappers started going back and forth in since deleted tweets on X after Nicki mocked Cardi's new album, Am I the Drama? The feud ignited when Nicki took the first shot, writing $4.99, seemingly referencing the promotional price of Am I the Drama on iTunes.
Brands and bloggers began tiptoeing too. Nobody wants to be seen cheering while the discourse targets a 7-year-old. Even longtime observers of hip-hop rivalries noted that once you bring a child into the narrative, the argument stops living in punchlines and starts living in consequences. Cardi leaned into that boundary, framing the moment as bigger than music. Respect is non-negotiable, and motherhood isn't a prop for punchy tweets. Nicki's apology, whether sincere or strategic, couldn't undo how fast screenshots travel or how deeply that line felt crossed. From here on, every update to the feud would be read through a different lens. Less who's up on the charts and more who's accountable for the collateral. And that shift changed the stakes for everyone watching. Somewhere in the chaos, a metaphor put on feathers. Cardi's album visuals had already planted crow talk, dark, watchful, a little ominous.
Somebody has to say it. Wrong is wrong and right is right. Between Cardi B and Nicki Minaj, I'm not picking no sides, but talking about people's kids is off limits. It's very low.
Nicki answered with eagles. The internet grabbed the image, and suddenly everyone was narrating a wildlife documentary. The eagle rises, the crow pecks, the lesson writes itself. And yet memes don't settle anything. A picture can float above the mess, but it can't pull the conversation out of it. The higher the eagle flew, the lower the comment sections went. What kept the bit alive was how easy it was to remix. One side posted slow-motion eagles over victory captions. The other side replied with crows perched like sentries, daring the sky to come closer. People started mislabeling birds on purpose: hawks, vultures, even penguins, because once a symbol goes viral, accuracy stops mattering and punchlines take the wheel.
Cardi B, she's done exactly what she should have done. Congratulations to her. The only thing with Cardi that really hurt my feelings was the first interview she did after Motorsport came out. I remember, like, when I first came in the game, if a female of that stature had done a feature with me on it, I would only be, singing their praises.
The metaphor turned into a scoreboard. Whose bird gets more shares, whose caption lands harder, who owns the sky today. Underneath the jokes, there's a sharper edge. Eagles read as dominance and distance, power above the noise. Crows read as intelligence and persistence, power inside it. Both messages sell, and both sides tried to claim them. But symbolism can't carry proof. It doesn't confirm wins, fix reputations, or clean up the timeline after a messy night. It only gives the argument a costume. And that's the tell. When a feud needs wildlife to make its point, the music isn't leading the conversation anymore. The algorithm is. The bird imagery kept clicks high, but it couldn't lower the temperature. Which is why, after the feathers settled, the posts didn't get safer, they got personal.
On Monday, she shared this now deleted dollar amount, $4.99. Why is that important? Well, it's the promotional price of Cardi's new album, Am I the Drama, on iTunes, which sold 200,000 album equivalent units in the first week.
Oh, snappity snap, snap.
But a metaphor can't ground a free fall, and the next volley proved it. Once the gloves are off, every sentence hits like a shove. Cardi's replies kicked with that "I've got the screenshots" energy, while Nicki's timeline carried the "but actually" cadence of someone who refuses to let a scoreboard speak for itself. Claims about discounted pricing, counters about consistency, old rumors dragged out, some fans treating them as gospel, others as bait. What was undeniable was the tone. Sharper, colder, less punchline, and more pressure point. A feud about music was mouthing the words of something personal, and it sounded like history trying to repeat itself louder. Each post started to feel like a test: who blinks first, who deletes, who doubles down. Cardi leaned into brevity, quick hits, one-liners that read like counters you can't unsee. Nicki played the long game, threading arguments that tried to reframe the whole week as smoke and mirrors.
She followed up by changing the lyrics to one of Cardi's new songs, Magnet, to take aim at the 32-year-old's recent pregnancy. The original song lyrics say, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, these bitches can't f with me. But Nicki changed them to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, falling off the charts with a big belly.
Fans split into camps, not just by favorite artist, but by preferred strategy. The lightning strike versus the lecture. And when timelines harden, nuance dies, screenshots become scripture. Context gets cropped to fit the narrative. There was also the subtext, nobody said out loud, momentum makes people reckless. The faster a post flies, the easier it is to sacrifice accuracy for impact. Accusations multiply, then mutate. One side calls it setting the record straight, the other calls it moving the goalpost. Meanwhile, the algorithm doesn't care who's right. It only cares who's loud. That's why the back and forth kept escalating, because escalation performs. What brought the air even thinner was the way past grievances resurfaced with new costumes. Old interview clips, half-remembered live streams, out-of-context lyrics repurposed as proof. It's a pattern. Take an archived moment, strip it of time and place, then drop it into a present-tense argument like a spark into dry grass. The effect is powerful and messy. It wins the hour, but it rarely wins the week. By this point, the argument wasn't about who raps better, sells more, or trends longer. It was about control of the story, of the framing, of the moral high ground. And when both sides claim that hill at once, the valley between them gets louder, meaner, and harder to cross. But the next shift would change what people argued about entirely, because it stopped being just artist versus artist and became a question of collateral. Underneath the spectacle, real concerns surfaced. The pregnancy angle wasn't entertainment, it was a stress conversation. Commenters begged all sides to log off to protect peace, to stop letting a timeline set a nursery's weather. And still, the replies kept coming. The part nobody wants to say out loud is the simplest. When families get named, people stop playing. That's when even longtime fans ask whether music-era rivalries are being used to justify real-life cruelty. It's easy to confuse momentum with meaning, but once you involve a child, you can't unring that bell.
saying thank you. The first interview she did after Motorsport came out, it just really hurt me. She looked so aggravated and angry, and the only thing she kept saying was, oh, I didn't hear that verse. I didn't hear that verse. She changed her verse. Like, I was like, what? I remember when I first did a song with Trina for the first time. That's why to this day I love Trina.
The ripple effects got practical fast. Moderators on big fan hubs started locking threads, creators trimmed clips to dodge guideline strikes, brands paused posts to avoid being caught cheering the wrong soundbite. PR teams went from promo to damage control, whispering the same 2 words to everyone with a password, touch grass. Even stan pages built to thrive on drama drew a line reminding followers that doxing, name-calling, and harassing relatives isn't defense, it's collateral. There's a mental toll here too. Parasocial loyalty can turn into pressure, and pressure makes people reckless. One offhand comment becomes a dog whistle. A meme becomes a mob. The algorithm rewards the loudest take, not the fairest one. So compassion feels quiet by design. That's how a chart story mutates into a custody of morals. Who protects their home, who protects their peace, and who remembers that fame doesn't make families bulletproof. Platforms felt it. Auto-moderation caught keywords and throttled threads, appeals piled up. Creators added disclaimers just to keep uploads from getting yellow icons. Lawyers started drafting no minors, no diagnoses, no speculation as fact memos for teams that usually only think in rollouts. You could see the tempo change in real time. Less snark, more hedging, longer pauses between posts. Heat was still there, the hands got colder. Fans adjusted too. Some swapped call-out chains for check-in threads. Drink water, log off, come back when you can read without shaking. Others pivoted to the music, ranking verses and breaking down production as a truce offering. A few simply went quiet, the loudest statement of all when the timeline begs for noise. That silence wasn't surrender, it was a boundary. In the end, boundaries aren't about who wins a post, they're about what survives it. When the cost of a clapback is someone's kid trending by name, the scoreboard stops mattering. And yet, just as the timeline begged for a ceasefire, a single name dropped into the feed and reopened the chaos because the next twist wasn't about music at all, but a rumor with a history and a warning label. Then came a name that set the internet to whispering: Kathy White. One post, 2 words, and a decade of unverified conspiracy chatter woke up like it had been napping with one eye open. Nicki Minaj posted the name. The rest is noise built on speculation and old rumor threads. There is no verified new evidence, just recycled claims in new lighting. When a feud taps into that kind of rabbit hole, it stops being about 2 artists and starts being about the attention economy. Rumors look like power, they're not. They're mirrors that make the room seem bigger than it is. Why does a single name travel so far? Because ambiguity performs. Old forum posts resurface, clipped screenshots circulate without dates, and commentary channels stitch together what-ifs into timelines that look official but rest on sand. Reputable outlets haven't confirmed the claims. Anonymous accounts repeat them until repetition feels like proof. That's the trap. Volume imitates evidence, and the algorithm rarely checks sources, it just measures heat. There's also a tactic at play, the breadcrumb. Post something loaded, avoid specifics, and let the replies do the heavy lifting. It creates the illusion of revelation without owning the claim. If challenged, there's plausible deniability. I never said that. Meanwhile, the insinuation has already done its work. Because deletion can't outrun screenshots. It's a feedback loop. A hint spawns threads. Threads create pressure. Pressure invites more hints. What we do know is simple. The reference reignited old online theories with no fresh sourcing. Everything beyond that lives in the rumor section. And there's a human cost most timelines skip. Real families live behind viral names. Each reshare can reopen grief, and each confident expose built on guesswork risks turning a tragedy into content. If the point is to win a feud, weaponizing unverified history isn't victory, it's collateral. In the end, the post did what cryptic posts do: spiked engagement, muddied the water, and shifted focus away from music toward mythology. But speculation can only carry a story so far before audiences start asking for proof or peace. After a week that felt like a month, 2 things stood out. First, that apology to a child, rare, necessary, and still not enough to reset trust for many. Second, Cardi's stance: don't dress an apology in shade and expect it to land. Online, apologies aren't just words, they're timing, tone, and follow-through. If the next post contradicts the last, people treat the apology like strategy, not remorse. Screenshots don't forget. They stack, and once the stack gets tall, good faith gets short. There's also the anatomy of a real apology. Own it, name the harm, set a boundary for yourself, and do something different next time. Anything less reads like PR fog. Add a cryptic subtweet and the message curdles. That's why fans kept asking for a pattern break, not a paragraph. Less posting, more proof. A pause can signal reflection. Consistency can rebuild trust. Noise can't. The industry storyline that only one woman can own the crown is the laziest myth in music. It keeps getting recycled because it pays well in clicks. That script demands a villain and a victim every news cycle, even when both artists are building legacies bigger than a week's discourse. The numbers say Cardi's album is a win on its own merits. Nicki's catalog and global impact stand regardless of any scoreboard you check on a Tuesday. Both truths can exist without turning every chart update into a duel. Gatekeepers feed that myth because rivalry is easy traffic. But fans don't have to. You can celebrate a win without auditioning for the opposing side's downfall. You can call out a line crossed without turning it into lifelong exile. The middle is not boring, it's grown. What matters now is how each side manages the temperature. Silence can be strategy, so can clarity. A clean boundary. No kids, no families would cool the room faster than any clever clapback. So would letting the music speak without cryptic subs. There's a reason crisis pros talk about pattern breaks, change the pattern, and the audience recalibrates. Keep feeding the loop, and the loop keeps feeding on you. Fans have a role here too. Amplification is a choice. If platforms reward the hottest take, communities can reward the healthiest one by refusing to trend a child's name, by not sharing the bait, by noticing when accountability shows up and saying so. That doesn't kill debate, it raises the bar for it. Demand receipts for claims, context for clips, and daylight between rumor and report. Call in over call out when possible, escalate only when boundaries are ignored. There's also a path forward that doesn't require either artist to shrink. It looks like this: acknowledge the harm without hedging, set a public line around minors, redirect energy into work, and let third parties, teams, moderators, peers mirror the boundaries so the ecosystem stops rewarding the worst moments. No victory laps for apologies, no pylons for sport, just proof over time. Maybe the real win is refusing the script. Not the one written by algorithms or by old radio myths, but by the artists themselves. Protect what matters, let the work speak, and leave the cheap shots on read. Because when the timeline quiets, the question that remains isn't who dragged who, it's what lasts. And that's the only question that sets up the ending that comes next. So where does this end? Not with a meme, not with a ratio, not with the last word typed at 3 a.m. The line got crossed when a child's name became a punchline, and that's a point you can't spin. Fame makes everything louder. Accountability makes it clear. The question isn't who won a week on the timeline. It's who's willing to choose legacy over latency. If the internet is a stage, silence might be the bravest verse either of them could drop. And if there's one lesson left, it's this: rise higher if you can, but don't mistake altitude for grace.